Hey, what happened to my screen? Okay, so yes, if you heard Milan asking, I did plan tomorrow for the 6th day of the 8A test or the unit, and I don't see any reason why we're not going to finish today. We only have 2 topics to cover today. The first one isn't necessarily slow, but for some people they feel strange. And so I'll probably start off by going slower. And then the second topic is on the calculator, which is 100% just how fast you are at running the calculator. And I know there's probably a few functions on it that you don't know how to run yet. Most of you, I'm sure some of you know how to do it. So that that goes kind of slow showing you those things. But it certainly isn't going to be something that will keep us from finishing before 8:55 or 9:55. Yeah, 8:55. Well, that'd be cruising. So this is the exact same topic as yesterday, except we're doing it horizontally instead of vertically. Oh, that's right in the way of, how do I move that? Can I put it on the side? No. All right, right there works. Oh, I need a marker. Maybe full screen won't work great. Sure. Okay, so we've got x equals negative y squared plus 3y plus 11, and x equals y squared plus y minus 1. Now, the first thing that should absolutely stand out to you is that they both say x equals. So if a function is solved for x, that means it's set up a completely different orientation. So this would mean you would plug in numbers for a height and then find out how far away the x-axis would be, right? It's just like when we do it vertically, we plug in an x value and then we find out the height. This is backwards, where we plug in the height and find out the x value. And so everything is measured differently. Normally, we measure like this. But since we're working horizontally, so this blue equation is x equals negative y squared plus 3y plus 11. This is going to be considered the upper function. Anything farther to the right is the bigger numbers. So this is what you would consider the top. We're basically always going to say right and left, probably. So yesterday we did the integral from a to b of upper minus lower, but now it's going to be right minus left. So however you want to remember this information, go for it. Some people have an easier time remembering that these are the bigger numbers. And so they kind of count that as like the top or the upper. Some people just like to remember top minus bottom and right minus left. Now the 2 details on here, that's really hard to read, isn't it? These numbers that go on the integral have to be y values. Like they're still labeled a and b because that's the beginning and the end of the interval. But everything will be written in y's. We're going to have dy, and then the numbers that go here have to be heights. They're not x values. And after a little while, it's really easy to get mixed up between them. Okay, so like you guys can see the shaded area. That's not an issue. What we're going to do now is, if you need to, draw a horizontal line to try to figure out information. You don't have to. But I'm going to take the blue equation minus the yellow equation. And then that would be like the right equation minus the left. So the blue one was what? Negative y squared They gotta make these so long. Can't remember who we started with yesterday. Who should we start with today? Who would I called on for? Oh, I think we started with Josh yesterday, didn't we? Yeah. Okay, Josh, who do you want to start with? That was very polite to ask her, though. I'm not polite enough to do that. We need to write two numbers here. How do we figure out those numbers?
Could we make the two equations equal to each other?
Okay, good. We can do that. So essentially, this is going to be A. This is going to be B. Because that is the height, that is the smallest. That is the, oh, that's a bad line. That is the height that is the biggest. So A and B are going to be Y values. And this will be their heights. We actually don't care about their X values, just the Y values. So if we were to set these two equations equal to each other, we're going to end up finding Y values. What am I? I'm going to have 0 equals 2y squared minus 2y minus 12. So that factors minus 3 plus 2. So this has a y value of -2. This has a y value of 3. Oh, is that too low up on the whiteboard? Yeah, okay. Didn't even think of that. I'll try to write it higher then. We're going to blame Connor since he went right to the front.
Yeah.
You're blocking off half the class.
Yeah.
It's okay. We could just blame Connor anyway. Like,
You can always do
we'll just
that.
think of a reason next time.
I'm strong.
Okay,
Take it.
excellent. So on the test, you guys could absolutely see how if you had to do like 10 of these questions, it's going to take you a real long time because there are multiple things to solve along the way. We didn't even integrate. We just like, all we did was write to the equation that would find the answer. And that took us a handful of minutes. So on the test, almost every question, I believe there are 2 questions you have to work out. So I think there are 8 questions. I'll look it up for sure, tonight. But I think there are 8 questions where I'm going to ask you to write the equation like this. And then I'm going to ask you what the numerical answer would be. So do you guys need practice at this still, do you think, or not? Plugging this into a calculator. Would anybody like me to plug that into a calculator for you? X. If you do put a Y, it's still fine. So yeah, your calculator doesn't care what variable you put. That's kind of the whole reason why you put the dx or dy at the end, because it wants to know what variable to integrate. And we would get the same numerical answer if we used an X instead of a Y. The only reason we write a Y is just because we know what it represents. But if it does bother you, because I'm sure some people it's going to bother them, you can hit alpha Y each time. Any kind of questions on this setup horizontally? So I went and looked through my examples and I didn't have one of these examples and I remember doing it last time. So I don't know where I got it from. Does anybody know? Maybe I should just erase a bunch of this. Where's my eraser? It's so small. Eraser. Oh, I want, do you have what you need, Dylan, or what, should I leave something? Do you need anything on the left? Connor,
Me?
yes, I called you Dylan, didn't I? I saw you writing, so I didn't know if you were still copying them down.
Oh, no.
Um, Does anybody know why we wouldn't do this one vertically? Because technically we could. Why would this one be really annoying vertically?
Just the functions wouldn't work as a y equals very well.
Okay, so like this gold colored one, if we were to solve this for y equals, this would be y equals positive something, y equals negative something. This blue one would be the same way, where if we were to solve it, would be y equals negative something, y equals positive something. And then if we were to set up vertical, we'd have to set it up as more than one integral. So our first integral would be top minus bottom up until this point. And because at that location, your top and bottom equations would change. So then we would have to have a second integral because you have a top and bottom that are different equations now. And that would stay the same until right there. And then we would have to have a third integral right here because then our top and bottom equations change. And so you'd have to have three separate integrals, and you would also have to calculate what this x value is. And you would have to do that by hand most likely because on the calculator, it's very difficult to type these in. So there would be an awful lot of work involved just to do it vertically with x's. And so your goal is to kind of figure this out ahead of time. I mean, obviously for this section, we're going to be doing all horizontal just to practice it. But the goal eventually is you're just going to be given a problem and you want to figure out what would work best. And if I'm looking at this particular situation, if I do it horizontally like we did, there would be a single blue equation on the right minus a single yellow equation on the left. And so that would be set up a lot simpler. But we would get the exact same answer if we did it vertically with that horrible setup. So it's kind of your choice, but like there is a method to choosing which one. You're not always going to choose one just because the equation you're given says x equals or y equals. Sometimes you're going to be, oh, what?
There was a Khan Academy sound. And looked at me, but it wasn't this time.
Well, we've only got a couple open Chromebooks, so it's pretty easy to narrow it down. Or did some Chromebooks close after this sound? Okay. It doesn't matter either way because I wasn't listening in any which. Okay, here's what I'd like you guys to do if you can. Set up the correct integral to find this answer. This one out is definitely set up quite a bit easier than the other one. Melanie, can you pick the next person that we're going to call on? Okay. I'm ready as well.
Oh, sure. The bottom will be 5, the top will be 9. And 18 over square root of 9y plus 19.
How come we don't have like a minus anything? I mean, like, how come we're not subtracting two things in the equation spot? Oh, really? How'd you come up with this answer then?
I just look at it. It's not just correct.
You basically were just, you saw the information there and kind of assumed that you just write it? That's, I mean, it's not terrible reasoning. Okay, so this is technically x equals 0. Yeah. So the equation on the right is this one. The equation on the left is this one. So we didn't discuss it this way before at all. There is only one equation and it goes to the axis. And so in the past, we just wrote the equation down, which is still correct. But we're actually always doing upper minus lower and right minus left, even if it just goes to the axis. So this is a -0, and it still works. And I'm presenting it to this way to you now, because when we get to 8B, the second half of unit 8, everything is about volumes. And if I start using this terminology now and I start presenting it to you like this now, then the volumes isn't a big deal. The volume feels like a totally different problem sometimes, especially if I start saying top minus bottom or right minus left, things like that. And so that's kind of why I'm presenting it to you this way now. It probably feels like overkill, and that's okay. You just don't get why I'm trying to give you the overkill for right now. Anybody have any questions on the way that's set up? I mean, that's 100% right. There's nothing more to it. We theoretically could do this one by hand. Does anybody remember how to do this one by hand if you had to? Because you're going to have to remember in like 3 weeks. No, 4 weeks? 3 weeks. Whatever. What's your test? The 4th? No. 9th? Oh, you got 4 weeks. Okay, if you had to do this one by hand, I would bring the 18 out front. And then I would write this as 9y plus 19 to the -½ power. And then I would do u substitution. I would do it in my head, but I know everybody does it differently. The derivative of 9y plus 19 would be 9. And so out front, I would have to do a 1/9. And so the integral of u to the -½ du is going to be u, add 1 to the power, divide by the new power, plus c normally, except in our situation. Oh, I already, oh, I don't have to change numbers because I didn't write u substitution. If I would have written u's in there, then I would have had to change the numbers, but I don't. So if we had to do this by hand, that's what we'd do. I kind of feel like I should probably do this with you guys occasionally because we don't really have time to do a lot of integrals anymore, but it's going to be really easy for you to forget details like this. Do you feel like you need another example or not? My guess is probably not, but I certainly can.
Mr. McLeod, can't
Yeah.
we use our calculator on the AP exam?
Every question. Yep.
Okay, so we can still use like the integral like function on our calculator. Correct?
Yes.
Okay.
I say that hesitantly because I don't know how they're going to set it up. I guarantee there will be questions set up that they want you to use the calculator for. And I'm guessing what they're actually probably going to do. Oh, I need that out of the way now. I'm guessing what they're going to do is something similar to what I had us do like on this first problem. Is they're just going to have you write down the equation that would find the answer. So then that way your calculator wouldn't be a benefit. I'm not positive because they haven't really released any details on how that's going to be different. Okay. So now these are going to be considered calculator active questions only because the information you're going to be finding is going to be done more efficiently with a calculator and or sometimes impossible by hand. So these can be vertical or horizontal. You're generally not going to be given a graph. You might be, but you're generally not. You'll just be given two equations like this. And then it says, find the sum of the areas enclosed by the graphs of f and g between 4 and 8. So sometimes they have to include bounds because, like, say, this trig function is going to repeatedly be oscillating. And so you could possibly create like an infinite number of enclosures, like enclosed areas. Now, on this one, it doesn't. So they probably didn't even need to include the 4 and 8, but they did probably just help you out. So we're going to need to use our calculators. Oh, nice. And let me pop mine up here. Okay, so I'm going to go into y equals, put in the equations. Oh, they're so small. Actually, I'm going to use the fraction button. Okay, then I'm also going to make sure, double check my calculators in radian mode, which I figure it should be, but yes. So mine's in radian mode. Now, if you hit graph right away, that's fine. But I want to change my window because I was purposely told that we're only looking from 4 to 8. And so I am going to change my window to right before 4 and right after 8. And it doesn't matter if you do like 2/10 like I did, you could make it 3 to 9, you can, your choice. I'm not going to change the heights because I have no idea what the heights are. Oh, wow. Okay, I'm going to change the heights because that is super smushed. I can kind of figure it out, but so it, what does it go up to, 2? Oh yeah, it's 2 cosine. So the height only goes up to 2. So I'm going to hit my window again and I'm going to change the heights so this doesn't look so smushed. Okay. So now this creates 2 sections. Now I kind of hinted at this on the problem right before this a little bit. How come we have to write this one as 2 integrals? Why can't we write it as a single integral? Yeah. So you'll see that first section, the top equation is the red one, bottom is blue. But then when you get to the second section, the top one is blue, the bottom one is red. If you wrote it as one single integral from beginning to end, your answer is going to be really messed up. And it's very possible it's just going to come out as 0. Probably come out as 0. So we have to set it up as 2 separate integrals. And I don't know what crosses at 4. I'm pretty sure it does because they specifically told us 4. But here's how you find out. So second trace brings you to the calculation menu, because above trace in blue, it says calc. And the fifth choice is for finding intersections of 2 lines. First curve. If you have a colored screen, it's much easier. It's not any harder. It's just, so mine is on the blue curve. I only have 2 curves, so I just hit enter. And then it chooses the second one, so I hit enter. If I had like 5 lines graphed, I'd have to pick the correct 2. And then the third thing, it says guess. So it wants me to move my cursor about where they cross. So it meets at 4, -2. Okay, so x equals 4 is one intersection. And then I'm going to have to do this 2 more times. First curve, second curve, and then move the cursor. Up at the top of the screen, it basically always tells you what it's asking you to try to look for. Or I guess, no, it says at the bottom. So it meets exactly at 6. So that's kind of a nice, easy spot. That's not going to be difficult to remember. I think our next question, they meet at a terrible spot though. And then I'm going to do second trace to look for the third intersection, which I'm pretty positive is 8. Okay, so I've got 4, 6, and 8. And I don't think I can, let's see. So the red one is Y2, blue one is Y1. I was writing that as scratch work down for myself. So we have 2 options. We can write this nicely officially. So the first integral was from 4 to 6. And it was the straight line minus the trig line. Don't type it in your calculator yet. I'll show you a much faster way. And then the second integral was from 6 to 8 of the trig line minus the straight line. And then you can see how these could get to be pretty time consuming typing on your calculator. And or on top of that, this actually even takes a decent amount of time writing out by hand. So one tip I have you is on the AP test, because these were labeled to begin with, I actually can write f of x and g of x instead of them. And that's considered acceptable. So I can write the integral from 4 to 6 of g of x minus f of x. I mean, it's not like that's like a billion times quicker, but you're allowed to do that. F minus g. So if you're a person that gets annoyed writing out longer equations, oh, sorry, I'll move that up. No, that's not my mouse. Is that better? If writing out the full equations is for you is annoying, then you could do this instead. The other advantage of writing f of x and g of x is if you mistakenly like forget to write the x, because I've seen a lot of students do that. Like you're trying to write so fast, you just mentally forget something like that. They count it as wrong because you wrote the incorrect equation. And that's sort of annoying. So I almost recommend you do this when you can, because it's easier, it's more difficult to make mistakes. Okay, on the calculator. because that's where our goal here is to use the calculator to find this answer. So I'm going to quit to go to the main screen. I'm going to do alpha window to bring up the integral symbol. My first one was 4 to 6. Now, instead of me typing the full equation, I already have it stored on the calculator as y1 and y2. So if I hit alpha trace, so F4, it has the y variables there. So I can type y2 minus y1. And that saves me a lot of time on the calculator. And it's dx, because I typed in x's. And then plus the second integral. Now, I think this is a class that had multiple people have T83s, right? Yes, no? Yeah, okay. It's in a different spot, so I'll show you where it is on the TI-83. On the TI-83, you have to get to it by this button that says vars. So it's for variables. And then you have to scroll over to y variables, function. So it's just slower to get to it, but it still is quicker than typing in the full equation. Basically, the TI-84s, all they did was add a shortcut on the top menus to the commonly used buttons. They don't label them or anything. That's what's kind of annoying to me, but they're shortcuts. And then this should be our answer. So you can put 1.092 or 1.093 in there, both considered correct. I would recommend always rounding, just because you're used to it. But AP considers it acceptable to just truncate, which means just cut it off, or round. So anybody not get those answers? Okay, does anybody want me to go over how to find the intersection again? Because I'm gonna have you try one on your own. That's why I wanted. Or is this a case where you still want me to try to do one with you? Do you think you could try this one on your own? Excellent. Okay, I will warn you ahead of time because everybody seems to miss this. This equation includes this -1. It's just the way it's written on the computer. It's hard to see that. So these are the two equations. This one actually gives you a graph to look at to know if you typed it in correct. But why don't you just see if you can find the correct answer? Oh, wait, this is the one where they meet at a bad spot. I was going to show you a tip on that, but maybe I'll wait. I'll show you I'll just show you a couple things at a time. I don't want to give you everything at once. Oh, that's pretty much identical. I didn't even notice that. I was about to hit clear. Yeah, you got a question? Wait,
I'll find this bottom right, so the first one, and then you might have
correct.
Or is it negative one for the
Oh, I
other?
forgot. I got 3.8. Yeah, yeah. I'll just do 0. I was gonna say, where's my first one? The downside is there's no way around this, that you just have to write it down by hand. There's no way for the calculator to copy that. Four point 3.5. 7, 8, 0, 1. Did I have 2 plus signs? What's going on with my keyboard? Did anybody else get that? I'm assuming. Oh, maybe not. Did I type something wrong?
You have dx times x at the end of it.
What's with the keyboard? Apparently X is like 3-ish. Okay, so now you got that. Well, here, I was all gonna show you these tips, but I mean, like, I don't know what's going on with my calculator. So the intersection point ended up being a bad X value. First thing I would definitely recommend, don't round that ever. Like, don't make it 4.357 because it would make your answer off.
I did, because I wasn't thinking to like store it, and I got the exact same answer, but I imagine.
Like out to the all decimal places,
I don't know about all of them, but up to
3.
up to 3, up to 4. Well, I know it was up to 4, 'cause
Okay,
4 point.
we'll call that lucky.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think usually it might not work.
Right, so it's kind of like when you guys did sig figs, I think that's chemistry, where during a problem, you want to use more accurate decimal places so that your final answer is accurate to 3. So usually 6 decimal places is recommended, but so I usually just write out the whole thing. And then I can't stand retyping the same horrible numbers all over because I'm really bad at like typing one number wrong. I'm good at writing them by hand, but like for whatever reason, I just type things wrong. I'll blame my fat fingers. So I usually type the number in and store it as a variable. I usually store it as K because we use K as a constant a bunch of times. So I know that that won't be an issue on my calculator. Do not store it as X. It will absolutely screw up your equations. Like it'll screw up your integrals. Because you can see when I hit that accidentally type by X, for whatever reason, my calculator has X stored as like almost 3. So I started as K. And then when I was typing out the equations, instead of typing 4.3578001, I just input the K, and then the calculator reads it as that number. And then same with these equations, you can type the equations by hand, or since they're already typed in, I just told the calculator what to look for. And it's all up to you as to how you want to type it in. All that really matters is you have the correct answer. So that's really all we care about. I'm just trying to show you how to do it slightly faster, because a lot of people run out of time on the AP test strictly because they can't do certain things very fast. So any kind of time we can save would help you guys out. Okay, let's put one up here. Just see if you can come up with the answer. I would say if you can come up with this one, you're probably good. I don't know if I have any after this. I do. Well, this one's kind of cruel. Maybe I should have made you do that one. I'm supposed to let you know that at 9:45, there will be an ambulance, a fire engine, and a police canine vehicle outside of the bus door. It is not from anything. It is for a classroom that is like doing something with it. I know you guys sounded worried. Did anybody get an answer already? Oh, I wasn't going to do this one because I'm super slow at typing it in. It's typing it on screen on the calculator, on the computer is not fun. You guys definitely know that if you've tried the one on the Chromebook. I was just going to write somebody's answer up here and see if everybody else got the same thing. And if anybody online has the answer already, just type it in chat or something. And actually. Oh, I didn't write any of these down. What? Way to go, teacher. Here, I was being smart. I was just gonna go show you the ones they already had saved. I guess not. Is this one a lot more difficult than the last one? What'd you get? $10.542. Oh, gotcha. Anybody else get something different or the same? Same. Okay, so we've got another check. Are some of you just this slow at typing in, which is okay. Good to know for the test at least. Oh, remember how yesterday I was mentioned you got negative? Oh, we got a different answer. Wait, I know negative's wrong. Not saying it can't be positive. Did you, what did you get as the middle X intersection point?
I got 0.
Oh yeah, 0's right. I didn't even look at that. How'd you get, let's see, so even if you did them backwards, it should be the exact same, but opposite answer. What did you guys have for the first integral? Was it F minus G or G minus F? Okay. Did you have the exact opposite of that, Ellie?
Yeah, first I did G minus X and then F minus G.
Okay. So we should have integral from -2 to 0, F minus G, and then the integral from 0 to 3. I'm wondering if you typed one of these numbers wrong to get 14 though. Weird. Has anybody else gotten one of these two answers by now? The 10 one? Okay.
Oh, I figured out what I did. I typed in 1/3 instead of 1/2 for one of the
Oh,
first
perfect.
coefficients.
Okay, good. I mean, not good, but good, we figured it out. Okay. Does anybody want me to, put something up on this? Yeah, go ahead. So if you got the same answer but negative, that would mean you had these exactly backwards. So you did G minus F on the first one, and then F minus G on the second one. So if you do lower minus upper, it'll have the same answer but negative. Which calculator do you have? Do you have the color one? Okay. I'm just going to assume that you had Y1 and Y2 backwards or something in your head, or whatever it was. Okay, I guess I'm done there. I mean, like, there's really nothing more for me to show you other than the homework itself goes real slow. So we have roughly a half hour left today. If I were you, I would go to the calculator ones to get those done while you're here in class. Especially since you're kind of just used to doing the different commands and keys. If you do that practice right now, that kind of ingrains it in your mind. So I would go practice that.